No, 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 no. No. How do I edit this? Shoot. Hold on. So I made this at least 1 minute finish to start the highlights. Okay. Now it is giving me horizontal. I mean, not horizontal, vertical. Welcome in. I was trying to do a horizontal video, but it is not horizontal. We are now doing vertical. So I don't know if I can change it since I've pre-organized this whole thing. Yeah, it's a little frustrating. Welcome in. Today I'm just going to talk about, how AI was actually constructed. Now, I'm somebody that lived in the 80s before social media and the internet came about. And I basically worked and studied and was educated without all of this technology. But as technology developed, I developed with the technology. So we started off with the simple things in life, like cameras. I'll put my music on later, but we had things like cameras that did not have devices that were compatible for the phones we have now, because our phones were phones that did not exist with the iPhone. We did not have iPhones back then, but we had things like cameras where we needed to develop the film. And I go into the question of film and development because if you're looking at the lens of AI, artificial intelligence, it was actually not started from how computers are constructed now. They were constructed from the idea of a lens, from the concept of, I'm trying to just get this. We had cameras back then. These are the kind of things we used to use back in the 80s. Okay, there was no such thing as an iPad. There was no such thing as the phone that I'm using to kind of have a discussion with on here on the internet. We actually had things that were manually constructed and developed. And when I was in, so I don't know if anybody has seen a picture of an actual developed picture, something that was developed. Let me just see if I can find one. This picture was developed. Okay, we actually had to use Ilford development paper, and then also the development structure of how a camera developed film. Okay, it was not the same as it is now. It's very, very different. And I grew up in the generation where this kind of stuff actually existed, right? We did not have things like the phone. Kodak started developing new things over time that allowed us to develop and construct things that we have now. Kodak disappeared and then it came back. I've seen some new Kodak stuff that was happening that is now created into like mini cameras that are like digital cameras. So they've kind of reconstructed the idea of the camera idea. Hi, how are you? Sorry, I have very, very bad eyesight. Oh, thank you. Yeah, the dark rooms were actually pretty cool. I was actually, there was when I was studying at the Corcoran, which is where the university was in the States that I studied film and photography and stuff. Our dark room was so small, I actually had a panic attack because I couldn't find the handle to open the door once I was finished. And all I needed to do was literally just turn and the door was there. But I had a moment, so I I was paralyzed remembering that experience, being in that dark room trying to remove the film and put it in the bag, and then make sure the bag was closed so that we could go into the room to develop it in a different section. The traumas, the traumas, if you've never experienced that, this was like a whole different world. Yeah, it was madness, it was madness. But I'm talking about film and cameras and stuff because if there is anybody that's younger than like 35 in the space, people who are 40 and over, like myself, had experienced life without technology, basically. And we had to adapt to the things that had happened over time. When I was living in Japan, I took a class of music production from my high school. And I was actually in the process of pulling it out. So let me show you. Sorry if I'm jumping around. So I have a mic attached to the garment that I have here, so you can hear me, but when I move, you can't see me. I'm going to play you guys something. Now this is when I was 1997, I was 17 years old. Okay, so a 17-year-old creating music from a computer back in the day. First of all, let's see if it plays. Okay, so this was done when I recorded, we had CD players. So CD players were constructed to develop the music. We did have things like Midis. There were Midis, but they were larger. Like they were much, much bigger back then, and things had to be plugged in and stuff. Totally different situation now, right? And I bring that up is because the Midi is the introduction. So back in like the 70s and 80s, they had constructions of these things called Midis, right? Okay. This is not a great piece, but it's just showing you what we were capable of doing back in the day. A 17-year-old in 1998 on music equipment back then created something like this, which is what this is you're listening to a track that I produced in 1998 before the new equipment and technology came out. So the whole point of going back into the AI is AI was constructed based off of the idea of how the Midi was developed. It's a reflection. When you go back into the question of a camera, the camera reflects light, and the light reflects like an image, and the image is reconstructed into the development stages of the film. Okay, so there's a process as to what happens, and it kind of relates to when you create AI. It's like the art world. Okay, it's like an image. It's hard to explain. It's like science, right? An image is created as layers. So by developing this, you're already creating the layer structure of AI. But AI was around before all of this stuff was actually talked about, because the music industry is not being honest, hey? They're not saying before, like it was used, the Midi was the AI, right? The Midi was like the AI. And the AI was just not used. The word and the term was never used in the music industry to say, oh, okay, it's a construction of sounds that are layered onto different elements. So in actuality, the creation of AI came through the music. Just saying, you know, the music industry complains about it, but I was creating music before music was even a situation. Okay, so I'm going to show you. Let me just go into. Let me play you this one. Sorry, I have a lot of tracks. I have a lot of pieces that I've produced. Which one did I just play? Okay, we want to go into this one. Also done on a CD. This is old too, but I've reconstructed this version. I've reconstructed this track into a newer version. Once again, CDs. If you haven't seen CDs, this is what we used to transfer the music, and we had CD players back then. And even before this, we had tape players. Who knows about, I'm sure people who are my age know that tape players existed. So tape players were like the thing, and then we had to use our pencils to switch pencils or pens to make sure that the tape would not get like unwound. So it's like a whole different thing, but I saw the beginnings and the development of technology before technology actually became like this huge thing and everybody's using it. The internet didn't exist either. The internet's like a new thing, right? This is like, for some people grew up with the internet. This is not, the internet is also a new thing I saw the birth of the internet, let's put it that way. That's what I'm saying. Okay, and then you have, I switched, it's so frustrating, I got the wrong, okay, so that, and then I had to redevelop that track. I think I readjusted it. Come on, Logic. And Logic sort of, why is this not opening? Oh, it's open. Logic existed, but I think it was called something else in the 80s. No, in the 90s. There were a few DAWs. It's called Digital Audio Workstation. There were a few DAWs that were developed during that time. Tokyo Breeze. I think I shifted this track to a lower. So this. Okay, so I'm gonna bring this closer. Let's bring this closer. I'm gonna have you guys see the production. Okay, so that's and this is what a MIDI looks like now. Okay, I don't know if I can lift this up. Let me just see if I can bring this over. If you can see that little machine down there, can you see that little machine, this machine over here? This is called a MIDI. This is what generates the sounds from the equipment into the computer, okay? And that is how, more or less, the concept of AI is developed, is it's generated from some image or an accumulation of a whole bunch of information that has been placed onto the internet, or people sending this stuff into the internet, and that is now creating like, images. Images are now developed into that format. So it's not magic, and it's not, when somebody says artificial intelligence, it's not like, it's not made by aliens. Like, people are like I was like, speak to the people who actually was around technology before it was like a thing. And then you'll get all the answers. Speak to the scientists. They'll also know the process and the integration of how that happened. But think of it as the old school camera. You have to go in, you have to put the film in, and that film is then developed into an image, which is layered. It's a layered image. And the art, like everybody, I remember when I was studying the arts, everybody was always talking about, oh, the art world's going to disappear and it's never going to exist again because technology is going to take over. And I'm like, well, let's see about that. And sure enough, the art has transferred from the concept of art into the science of AI, because AI is like, it's not seeing the way people think it sees. It's not seeing like that. It's coding. It's like, and I've built my own website, so I understand semi-coding information. I go into the softwares and I kind of learn the process of how to construct things. It's coding. It's coding and layering of things. And when you produce a music, you're layering sections of a track. The same thing applies for how it's constructed, okay? This one I had to recreate from the original one from 1997 because as somebody who had it on a CD and it was in Japan, I obviously didn't carry the file because the file did not exist. The teacher had the file. So these are all the things that we experienced in the 80s, right? 80s, 90s. My husband was a DJ in the 90s, I think in New York. And when he was in New York, DJs didn't have, they had decks, but they didn't have the decks that they have now. It's a whole different like concept now. It's more electronic now. Before, you put the vinyl in and you had to like place it in certain sections to mix it. Sort of the same thing, but it's like a different kind of element. So yes. Okay. So what you're seeing here is layers. I need to explain what the layers are meaning. So the layers, the sounds are created. Each sound is created individually. Let's see. So I created the sounds, the sections. And going back to the question of AI, the thing of AI is AI is also like sections. It's kind of created from different like sections and layers to kind of bring together. And then it creates an image like a camera. Okay, think of it as a camera. Back in the day, when we were, even before my time, hold on, even before Alfred Stieglitz and a couple of other people. Okay, let me just play. I'm going to play you another track. Just to get it moving, I'm going to play you the track that I recently worked on. Open recent. This one, right? This is from the other day. Close. Yes, save. Okay, save it. Yes. Okay. Okay, so I've been working. This is the more newer stuff, right? So music also changes over time. I think you have to understand the computers and the technology to really, you know, when people talk about AI slop, I can tell you that if you're a qualified artist, you're going to do a lot better job in producing AI designs and architectural formats than people who just have the equipment, because it's not about having the tools, it's about actually knowing the skills to create a fantastic painting from something like AI, which is an adapted process from the arts in the first place. Okay, and I've gotten my master's in art, so I have qualifications to talk about these topics, because this does basically discuss similar things that I had anticipated through the process of the arts over time. Okay, so just don't forget, if you understand how to develop film, if you know how to create music on equipment, if you know how to paint a painting, I have paintings that I've painted, I'll show you over here. Actually, that's my piece over there. And then the soundproofing I also did. Okay, and the painting below is mine too. Okay, that's my master's. That's one of my pieces from my master's. But I think it boils down to, you know, when, like, the slop, when I've seen AI slop, it's like really not focused designs, and there's no understanding of quality. And then when it comes down to the question of using other people's pieces, like for instance, I think I spoke on another video about repurposing an image like The Simpsons and using it to make it move, that's called slop. You're recreating something that has already been constructed. That's like, in fact, that's not even like the best approach, because you could get demonetized on places like YouTube if it was that you're using other people's like designs. So you have to be creative in how you're going to construct things like AI. You need to be really on point and understand good quality art and skills to make it really a very effective tool, because it's a tool. It's not an alien. I grew up in the world of learning how technology was developing. I even developed my own websites. So if I develop and color theory, if you don't know anything about color theory, like take a course on color theory and understand the processes of how this actually works, okay? So I do both. I'm an artist and a musician, and I build my own websites. And by having those skills, I become an entity that understands how the computer works on the inside and the mechanics. Okay, that really does make a difference. Like the skills, like the arts and the music should be part of science and technology. And I just think that it's not kind of brought together as often. And I do read music. So when you learn piano, when you learn an instrument, you're already learning coding at a very young age. You're learning how to read music and sheet music. This is coding before coding came about. The piano and the harpsichord came about before the computer. Somebody had to read this to play it on an instrument that was created by a human. It all goes back into history. It's part of the development of humans in general. Now, I know that this is a reversed, it's very frustrating. I do wish that YouTube would have a system where we could actually reverse the image, because I know that this is the mirror image. So what you're seeing here, if you can't read this, right? If you can't read this, it's because it's backwards. And that becomes a little frustrating. But yeah, so I probably need to get plugins to make that a possibility, right? But yeah, I think going back into the question of music. Okay, so I read music and I produce music and I compose music and I play instrument while I play the piano. I used to play the drums. Okay, and this is a piece that I produced for the animations that I'm busy working on, okay? And then I'll play you another piece that I've worked on. These are all the pieces that I've produced. So I'm not just I'm doing some entertaining things, but my channel is actually an educational channel. I'm 46 years old, and I used to play video games when the Nintendo first came out, but I'm not a gamer. I'm a person that likes to build things from accessible equipment that is around, and that probably even comes out, like GarageBand. Like the new GarageBand is super cool because the Midi is already inside the system. You don't have to go out and buy, like they already have equipment in here. It's so cool. If you haven't tried using, I don't know what this is. Oh yeah, that's the loop that I use. So I used this part over here I actually got from GarageBand. GarageBand and Logic Pro X work, they're compatible because Apple deals with them. They're both Apple supported DAWs, right? And that's why they work so well. I was using GarageBand when it was on like the iPad. And I think I was using Photoshop when Photoshop first came out back in the, when was it? Back in the 90s? Yeah, so I was using Photoshop before even AI came out. So we were doing all sorts of things, hey? It was not, yeah. So my channel is not an entertaining channel. I'm sorry, guys, if that's what you're expecting. That is not what you're going to receive from my channel. My channel is all about what tools you can use, how you can implement them, what kind of things you can work from. I have the masters. And that is what I am doing here. And I run my own business. That is part of what I do here, is just not, this is an office space that I built up. Well, studio space, right? Ooh, gosh. Cancel. I don't want to do that. I want to do open, recent, won't take me down. Let's try this. Close. Yeah, save it. That's fine. And the volume's not right. I need to go back and adjust that. So I put all these pieces in. Some of them are loops. Now, back in the day, there were no such things as loops. Loops didn't exist. They have loops now, but when I studied in 1998 in Tokyo for music production, we had to create the sounds individually to create the track. Okay. That is what this is about. Yeah. So I'm not here just for the purpose of talking about production. I am talking about the whole entirety of how the system was created from when you deal with AI. AI started off with the notion of how can, I mean, if music can do it, and if music can communicate sound into a system and then replace it or place it into a computer and then transfer it into another system, for instance, like a CD, that's the beginnings of AI. AI actually did start from the music world, okay? It didn't start, it started with visuals. They wanted to switch the concept of the sound into visuals, and the visuals is what is what AI is. AI is the visual side of the technology side of the music. Okay, so that's what it is. It's basically the arts. AI is the arts, okay? So just remember, we did not have phones. We didn't have the things that we have now that people are experiencing at this stage in the 80s and 90s. We had to start with things that did not exist. Like, we had to create our own process. And I think by having those skills of learning the skills of not having anything has made, and you do realize that half the people out there of my age are the ones that are inventing the new things that are happening in technology, right? I hope people realize that. That's my generation. My generation is coming up with the new stuff. That's where this falls into place. And I think more people should talk about our experiences growing up in the 80s and 90s. I'm an 80s kid, through and through. Through and through. I learned technology before technology was around. I was doing all sorts of things like music production they didn't have in the States at the time. In 1998 in Tokyo, I'll even show you my certificate. I graduated from Japan. Hold on a second. Let's see, can I move fast enough? Hold on. I'm graduated from Tokyo. Can you believe it? I graduated from Japan, guys. Tokyo, Japan. Do you see that? Tokyo, Japan. It says Tokyo, Japan. That's my certificate from Tokyo. It's not even from the States. Okay, I did my college in the States, okay? I did my university for the arts in the States, but I did my high school in Japan. So I was already seeing things progress in technology that was not existing in the United States at the time. And for me, it was a bit of a shock coming back to the States and like seeing how behind technology was in contrast to places like Tokyo. I'm sure Korea and China were also very much ahead of the game. So I'm just putting it into the forefront. I didn't just grow up in the States, okay? I studied some stuff in the States, but I did not just study in the United States. Don't forget, we had these things back in the day. Pentax, a Pentax. If you've never seen a camera before, oh my gosh, I don't even know if you guys have seen a camera. Have you seen a camera? That's what a camera looks like, okay? And we had to open up a camera. Where's that little clip? Here's a clip. We had to, I don't think there's film in here, but you have to lift it open, put the film in, and roll it into there. But you had to make sure that the film didn't hit the light, because once the light was hitting the film, it would destroy the film, and then it's over-scoot-overs for the picture, okay? So that's what I was raised on. I was raised on cameras. I was raised on VCRs. I was raised on vinyls, like proper old school vinyls. I was raised on all that stuff, and I'm also growing up watching the growth of technology. So I'm bringing them together. I've seen things that some people younger than me might not have experienced, okay? That's like the whole thing, right? And what's nice about going into Logic is Logic automatically converts. So say, for instance, you have the music. It automatically converts the music. That's what I'm saying. Before AI, there was music. And when the music was transferred into notes, this was almost like the first experiences of how AI came about, because this was already happening in music. Music was able to be rewritten through those sounds onto like a sheet of paper, like this. I don't know if I can expand this. Can I expand this? Extend this out. Piano roll, smart score. Scores here. Let's expand. Let me just see. I don't think I can. Let me just. No, I don't think I can. I mean, I'm sure there's a way to do it, but I haven't done it. I don't think I want to go there. But below you can see the notes. So let me just see where it is that we're looking. Oh, this is the line, okay? I'm going to have you listen to this part, okay? We're going to listen to what we're reading here, okay? And this is like the beginnings. This is like what you're seeing here is like the beginnings of how AI was. Why can't I hear it? Oh, mute. Oh, it's on silent. Okay, wait, hold on. Let's do this one. Yeah. So it's a visual thing. It's like bringing a camera, getting an old-fashioned developing process, because even before the film, they've developed film on copper. I don't know if people know this, but you actually would develop film on copper. So copper was like the first introduction into how light reacted to something like a metal, like a flat sheet of metal. So it's science. I think, you know, I mean, I get very despondent when people talk about AI slop, because I think half the people out there that talk about it don't really know the actual workings of the construction, first of all, of AI, and then quality over quantity, right? You need to have the skill to understand how to make a good quality AI image versus just creating slop, which I see on most of the occasions. So I think that's what I wanted to kind of like bring up today, is that the assessment was that there was a misinterpretation of where AI comes from. It's not alien, it's human intervention. It's human intervention. We created this mess, okay? We created this mess from all of the stuff that we have manifested. Music notes, computers, the keyboard, the DAW, the Midi, the speakers. We invented that, the stuff that is happening now. And I'm just so happy that I lived in Japan to see the beginnings of where it all kind of developed from. I learned production in Tokyo, okay? I got a certificate, and I won an award for my music, basically, even though it was like, it doesn't sound great now. It was clearly pretty good back then, because I don't think a high school student knew how to compose even. But I was composing long, long ago. Like when I was 6 years old, I was starting the process. Okay. So that is my chat for today. Let me just see if this sounds. Oh, and then a reminder, the reason why I produce music on the internet is because it's safer to produce music as your own entity. If you decide to go the route of using other people's music and you have like a YouTube channel, most likely they'll take it down because it's copyright infringement, and yeah, that would be like a big problem. That's like the hugest problem I think people have right now. And then if the AI has been recreated by somebody else, I mean, if you use somebody else's AI and then you create some AI images from that image, from somebody else's image, most likely that will be taken down, because that is also copyright infringements. It's the visuals and the audio. Like, you have to bring the two together, and you have to be full on authentic, or else you're just going to have a problem on any platform. Probably more so on YouTube. TikTok is a little bit more like social, right? I also have my TikTok channel. I have my TikTok shop. I do all sorts of things on TikTok. But I think YouTube is the more like the mechanics, like how do you make things work? I think this is the educational side of social media, and I like the fact that I can talk about like all sorts of things on here, because other platforms you have to only focus on one. I'm also a Poshmark ambassador, so I sell clothing online as well. I make my own clothing. You can see one of my crazy little garments, something that I've made long, long ago. And I think it's just nice to be in a space where you could authentically be yourself, but they want you to authentically be yourself. They don't want you to be an imitation of a popular character who's famous for a particular. They want you to be you. And I think that is like that is the most important takeaway from this whole thing, is the originality is what they're really looking at. So if you're going to use AI, right, and if you're going to create music, make sure that it's all done by you. If it is not done by you, you are going to have problems in the end. Okay, that is like the biggest factor to come out of the subject, is that this is where it all kind of like stems from, is that you can create, there's no problem, like YouTube doesn't say you can't create stuff from AI. What it's saying is you got to create it. You as the individual has to create, like you have to write the notes, you have to write the words in, you have to explain exactly what you want, and don't copy other people because they will take it down. That's rule number one. Like they want original content, and I always emphasize that when I was teaching music. I was like, you can play as many pieces as you like, and perform as many songs that celebrities have performed or played or whatever. But if it's not your own, you're not going to get far in music. You have to be authentic. That is like the key factor. You can do those. You can play commercial pieces, no problem. But you really have to step out of that. Eventually it has to be. You have to step out of that. Oh, and then different lenses, right? Different lenses. So we had to place the different lenses. This is just an example. In order for us to get different zooms, because we can now do it on the phone, right? We had to remove the lens and place the new lens in to create. It was such a mission. Oh my gosh, the mission. The whole manual thing. Oh, and besides the fact I have a rod in my leg, so I'm part metal now. I am indeed part metal. Let me see if I can put that up. Let's see if I can show you my x-ray. This is now what I'm living with at this stage. Hold on. Let's get an x-ray. No. I'm gonna show you my little. Okay, and then this is a good time to just kind of show some slides of stuff. But my leg looks like this now, and the reason why I'm kind of up and down with my, this is what I have to deal with. I broke my leg. Okay, and I'm living, I don't know if you can see that, but there's, you probably can't see that. Let me start over again. Let's see if there's another image. Okay, so that's what I'm living with right now. I have metal in my body. So the metal that you see in the body, like the metal they use, titanium that they use in human bodies to repair and construct, is sometimes, I think a lot of the times people don't realize this, but that is a similar wiring and metal that they create in computers. Okay, so computers are also using similar types of metals that you'd find in human. Yeah, that's my leg. Okay, so I have a piece of chunky metal. I'm part metal now. I call myself a part metal person. Okay, I'm literally part metal. Let me just put this back up. Okay, so humans, like when scientists create replacements for bodies, they use the lightest metal you can find in the body that doesn't react, and titanium happens to be that particular piece of metal. Okay, and metal parts and pieces create Metal parts and pieces creates the inside workings of a computer. Oh shoot, of a computer. Let me see. This is my little AI image. Let me show you because you cannot copy other people's stuff, right? So I'm now pulling out all the things that I've kind of like worked on. Okay, so inside a computer are chips, and inside that chip are little pieces of wire. Okay. Oh, hold on. Gotta find it. Where did I put this thing now? Okay, this is a make-believe like image, but this is a close-up of the inside of like a chip or a piece of computer or whatever it is that we're kind of analyzing. And within those, if you take off the plastic on the inside, there's metal. And metal is also constructed in a piece of computer. So sometimes AI is a good thing for people like myself who has to deal with a permanent injury that is never going to heal with a piece of metal. So the metal becomes a big part of our transition, right? Our, you know, it's good for the right reasons. It should be going in the right direction, right? If people use it wrong or incorrectly, then that's their problem. That's what they're doing. Their issue. That's their issue, right? Okay. So I think that's generally what I wanted to talk about. 4 p.m. Yeah. So just going back into the concept. So we had cameras. We had to develop the film. Before the film was developed, there were cameras that were like these huge boxes, and then I think that's when it was 1845 or something. I can't remember the dates. But before this camera came about, there was another type of camera that captured light. It wasn't a pinhole camera. I think it was something else just before that. Pinhole camera also created images that reflected onto a paper that created the film. But before that, there was a camera where you actually had to put like a piece of metal in there, and the metal, which was copper, was creating an image because the light hit it in a certain way. And then once it developed, that was then created into a picture. So I don't have a copper, I wish I did. I don't have a copper image. Yeah, my family's not that old. A copper image into the developmental process to create these, and I think they frame them now and they put glass over it, very old photographs that looked like paintings, but they weren't paintings. They were actually photographs on copper. Yeah, and before that you had painters like Monet and Renoir and Leonardo and Michelangelo, who some of them were actually scientists as well. Like Leonardo, we know, was a scientist himself. So this whole concept of creation, like art and music is the concept of creation. That is the element of how this all came about. So it's basically human intervention. Okay, so people can stop saying, oh, it's alien, it's alien, it's alien. It's not alien. It's human intervention, guys. We created it. We created it. If we can create things like a camera and music equipment and technical things like even learning how to create a piano, that's technical. We had to know how to invent things. Inventors. Stephen Hawking. I don't know if people know Stephen Hawking, but I'm sure you guys do. Stephen Hawking was not a scientist, a philanthropist, not a philosopher. He spoke about the universe and all that stuff and the things that were happening. And his box, his construction of his voice, because he lost his voice over time, they had to create a box that created sound, and it was almost like the first robotic sound because he would be typing in the words for that to be. So that was like the beginnings of the process. And then you had Einstein. You know, we know like Albert Einstein was a scientist, right? But at the same time, he was also a musician. So you have to go back into how music and science were built together. They coincide. And science, music, science, and art, they all work together. I mean, that's what else can I say? That's what it is, right? That's all it is it all works together. So there you go. Oh, I should have flipped it over, but I didn't. Okay. I think we're gonna call it a day. I'm a little tired. Yeah, 4 o'clock. That's good enough. I've done my little 1 hour chat. I think that's good. Okay, folks. Thanks for popping over. It was a brief discussion. If you want to learn more about each individual skill that I have, I even talk about the websites I've developed. Let's see if I can go into my websites. I'm not going to show you the inside working of my websites, but I will show you that I built them from even WordPress, and my husband actually built, like, with coding back in the day, computers, not computers, Nomadics. Let's just go to Nomadics. This is the Wix version. So I did, oops, nope. Oh, here, sorry. Okay, so I started the process of building these things. I don't know if you guys are seeing this. Yeah. So it's like if you understand how to work the mechanics before technology existed or before all these new interventions have happened, you will generally be like a computer. You were like the first creation of AI. Humans were the first creation of AI. We were the inside workings. Our brains are yeah, they're that's what it is. Okay, and then you can go into different things. Let's go into this section. This is the other site that I've done. This is more like a blog at this stage. But yeah, these are, I put them all together. I connected them all together. Then you have my TikTok, and I don't use Instagram that often. Facebook, I'm still like wary about it. I'm in and out of that space. Even though I'm monetized on there, I'm like, no big deal. So that's basically it. If you know how to make this stuff from scratch, then you will be okay with AI. You just need to know how it was created. If you know how it was created, you're set. Okay, that's how it goes. Okay, there you go. So that's just my, and then my logo and stuff. Okay, folks, thank you.